This week in comic books, we get Flashpoint Beyond #1, which is really just a grittier Batman, but I liked it, and we're going to talk about it. Also, in the land of Marvel, we get Spider-Man 2099 Exodus. I no clue what this thing's trying to relate to me in any way. And also in the land of 80s, Twig #1 comes out, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it so reminds me of something. I liked it, but it reminds me of something. We're going to talk about that in a whole stack of comic books right after the bumper. Hit it. Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? Pocan Joe here, and as always, I'm super happy that you're here with me. Thank you to all the new subscribers, more especially Group 52 from the Honor Foundation. Congratulations to all the graduates out there. If you're unfamiliar with the Honor Foundation, I'll put a link down below. It's a charitable program to get veterans into business, entrepreneurial skill sets to kind of help with that transition. So definitely, if you have the time in the video, definitely check it out. They're doing great things. If nothing else, just as a piece of information to give to any other veteran out there that may need their assistance. So without further ado, let's jump in to this week's comic book haul and review. And we're going to start off with Task Force Z. So, of course, I had to pick up this cover. Anytime you give me a bunch of villains at one time on a cover and this kind of zombie effect that they do there, I'll pick it up. So basically, we're restructuring the Task Force Z, if you will, putting new members in, taking new members out. I like this concept. It's a great thing to do with like zombies and the undead. Once you've completely demolished them, you can kind of rotate in characters to kind of see what they would look like as a zombie or how you would utilize them. This is mostly a literary test, if anything else. But this is issue 7, and they're restructuring the team. Of course, Mr. Bloom in this one, the scary, creepy, skinny guy, he's still actually going against this particular team, Harvey Dent's team, of his team of zombies with the Red Hood. And they're kind of restructuring. So in this one, they kind of picked up, Cobra, Solomon Grundy, right? Which is not really that far of a stretch, I would think, because he is a zombie to begin with. The masked murderer, whose name starts with a V, Vasquez, Vizar, something along those lines. Really, just fun reading. When you have a stack of comic books and you're going through them, a lot of things kind of start seeming very similar. So it's kind of cool to have this kind of refreshing break where you're kind of changing things out and renewing it. As far as the storyline goes, it's pretty basic. 2 government agencies going at it, right? Fighting a little crime in between. It's really the big spiel there. Moving on to Suicide Squad. So, Suicide Squad, this has been interesting. I've been in and out of Suicide Squad. I went ahead and picked up this issue because when I was thumbing through the deck, I saw this kind of spreadsheet here, and I was like, "Oh, party time! They got a victory. Let's buy the book." And they kind of did. What happens here is Amanda Waller's gone, right? And the squad itself still wants to operate in some capacity, but they need a new, piggy bank, somebody with money. So what do? We go to Lex Luthor, and we're going to kidnap him and ransom him for the money. But this proves to be extremely complicated. And when they're like, "Hey, we're just trying to kidnap you because we need to fund it," and he's thinking, my own Suicide Squad. Yeah, I'm on Rouge. I liked it, I'll be honest. I thought it was very funny. I like seeing Lex Luthor in this kind of capacity where he's not sweating what's happening to him because he's already got an answer and he's got the funding to do it. So now Lex Luthor has his own Suicide Squad. Let's see where that goes. I'm just curious. I think it's fun. Next, Monkey Prince. If you've watched other episodes of this, I've been reading this. This is all the way up to issue 4. And it kind of caps out this particular arc, this shorter arc here. There may be an issue after this, very well. But in this one, Batman and Robin figure out a way to work with this Monkey Prince character who's relatively new. They defeat the Penguin who turned into the golden horned penguin. But then we also find something else out here that's kind of a connective tissue with other storylines that are currently going on. So we're going to get some more Monkey Prince. Will it be his own self-titled, or will it be shoehorned into another story? I don't know, but I liked it because it's a simplistic storytelling. It's a Peter Parker type story. His parents are henchmen, so he's got to deal with that, and then somehow or another not be the bad guy. Well, we find out what his role really is to protect superheroes. That's kind of his mission in life, according to his mentor Pigsy, a pig. Again, all this sounds ridiculous and weird, but for some reason it fits. It doesn't come off like totally childish, right? But it has a whimsical note to it. So I enjoyed it for that. Next, Flashpoint Beyond. Number 1. So we read number 0, so we kind of know that it's a time thing. It's the sequel to Flashpoint, I think is the best way to put it. So if you don't know about Flashpoint, basically time, reality, all that other stuff was disrupted. Daddy Wayne is the Batman in this, and he's super gritty. Like, just, he's not the good guy. He's not really a bad guy. He's just kind of in between, no nonsense, cut through the red tape, shoot the villains type attitude. He's like Punisher as a Batman. I think is the best way to put it. And in this, we find out that, yes, this particular Batman does have a Robin of sorts, or a sidekick. And apparently this sidekick has met the other Earth's Batman, and they're conjuring a scheme together. Is it relatable to how the timeline hasn't changed? Is it relevant? Who cares? Honestly, if you read this, you're so enthralled into what's going on in there because you see characters put in different scenarios. The sidekick is actually Harvey Dent's child. His parents died. Right, we get the motif that's happening here. Right, same scenarios, different people, different situations, and I kind of like the way that rolls. So yeah, also in this, again, picking up off the Flashpoint, if you watch the cartoon or read the comic book, you know that the Themyscirians and the Atlanteans are at war with each other. That war just ended, right? Wonder Woman dropped that body. Like, just did away with that, with, of course, with the help with this particular Batman. So all in all, I'm enjoying this. Again, lines are blurred between good and bad in it. It seems more realistic to me, and I can actually get behind that. Next, Killing Time. So there's been some criticisms. People don't like the way this thing jumps around. Nothing's in the present. So you're either in the past, or a few minutes in the past, or 100 years in the past. Either way, it gets broken out. But we finally figured out what is in the box. The magical box that's holding the MacGuffin that kind of is the plot point of this entire story. And apparently it's the eyeball of Christ. I'm sure it's really some kind of jewel. It's just a representation of it, even though we haven't really seen it. Because they kind of point back to an older story where it's explained that way. But the biggest thing in this is it's not his first appearance. And look, I don't want to get into cameos, or any of that other stuff. We've seen this gentleman called the Help before. He's basically a mirror evil version of Alfred, really. And he's also a very skilled fighter. Like, he's like telling Batman as they're fighting, right? Oh, you learned this from Ra's al Ghul, you learned this from Dakar, right? We're getting names thrown around that we know. Obviously, he's been around for a long time. But at the end of the day, he's just a glorified butler. I really like this, and I love this character. I really do. Very sophisticated, very on point. Plus, we got the Joker doing his thing in here. Good stuff. Good stuff. We're only on issue 3. I'm pretty sure if you needed, you could pick up the last issue. It's pretty cheap at this point. I don't think there's a lot of spec or anything like that on this book. So if you enjoy reading actual comic books, I would definitely pick up 1 through 3 and go ahead and make up your mind on your own, like any reasonable thinking being. All right, jumping into Marvel. Spider-Man 2099 Exodus. Now, I want to preface it before I say anything about this book. I understand there's a huge amount of you out there that love your Spider-Man 2099. I know there's a lot of spec on it. It almost seems like in most conversations, you can't even, there's been even, I think, a brief appearance of him, or a hint of him coming into the animated world of all of this in the MCU. Um, but this writing I don't really get. Our hero has to take out a organization called the Cabal, who pretty much run everything and can do whatever they want in the future. 2099, and like he's got a problem with this because they're really bad people. So our superhero's trying to defeat this. For some reason, he goes to Ghost Rider 2099, who's really just a computer program hologram at this point. Cabal breaks in, fighting happens. A lot of words are being substituted because they're trying to give you this future sense to it, but you have no context to the words. So I'll give you an example, and this is very was used a lot. I think it first started on Sci-Fi. When you want to drop an F-bomb in a show, you generally say the word frack, right? You can relate to that because of the context that the word is being used in. They don't do that in here. They just randomly throw out these weird words or these weird sayings or something, and we just can't connect to it. We don't know what they're saying. And this is heavily dialogue. There's very little narration in it. So, like, the dialogue should kind of push the story forward, and I thought it just missed the point on that. So I don't really know what the motivation of the people are in here. I do know one thing: the Green Goblin, for some reason, is still alive in 2099, and he's running the Cabal. That's it. Moving on to, I went ahead and picked up another X-Men book, even though I swore up and down I wouldn't, because I'm not on board with this new concept of the X-Men. But a character who I always kind of enjoyed reading about was Thunderbolt. I love the whole Native American noble. I don't want to say noble savage. Somebody get mad, but that's kind of the trope we're using here. Well, this one's a little bit more grittier, a little meaner, and you know what? He died. He got resurrected through their magical egg thing that they do on the island, and he decides to go home. So he's walking home. Very reminiscent to Rambo. The last movie that came out where he's walking and he sees his home or whatever. Not the last one, the one before that. He finally goes home, right? It's kind of, and of course it's tribal there. It's on the res, and everybody's been snatched up because they won't rat out who the mutants are to this organization. So they're just like, we'll just round everybody up. Cops are obviously redneck and racist or whatever the case may be. And of course he goes overboard. But his grandmother's there and is like, hey son, you need to settle down, yada yada yada. Thunderbolt's brother shows up in his classic outfit, and they all drink beer on top of a trailer. And there were stereotypes in here relating to the, hey, aren't you just drinking that fire water or something to that effect, right? And then they end it with all them drinking on top of their trailer. It's not good. You don't make, if you're trying to make a point about stereotyping and just being weird, right? Racial stuff, right? You don't end your story with them fulfilling that stereotype. Like, that's just, your point's completely missed. And this is obviously one of those books that are trying to teach you something. And, well, really, they're just hypocrites at the end of the day. It was bad. It was so bad. Okay, moving on. Let's see what we want to start here with. Let's start with Twig. So Twig #1 came out, and I can't, for the life of me, think of the movie that it reminds me of. Like the Rock Mountain talking with the tongue. And so basically the story breaks down like this. It's a quest story. Young man, young thing, right? Wakes up, he's got a sarcastic little friend that sits on his shoulder, kind of like a twisted version of Jiminy Cricket. Right? Basically, inside this mountain, they find these little golden or gems. They find gems. And then they have to take the gem to an individual who has to tell them where the gem needs to go. So there's your quest and your journey. So it's a journey within a journey. Prefaced with one's own journey, right? A lot of journeying going on here. So, but what we find out is this individual that's supposed to tell them where to go, well, he's dead. Right? So who's going to tell them where to go? Or what's the big drama that's about to happen next? That's where it leads us off. So this is mostly just world building to let you know that you're in this whimsical world with this happy-go-lucky Muppet-looking thing. I can't think of what movie this reminds me of. It was there, and I lost it. It's probably right there. probably right there. But anyway, as it goes through, I'm enjoying this. I've always enjoyed Scotty Young's writing. I think he's a talented writer, and he definitely knows how to build up a world. But you can definitely find where the influences are, like that movie. So yeah, good stuff. I'm enjoying it. I almost wish when I was in Planet Comic Con, I wish I had this copy with me so to get him to sign it. I had the preview, but I didn't bring it with me. Bad things. All right, moving on. Number one, Dogs of London. So if you like that movie Legends, where it talked about the Cray brothers in England, proper gangsters. That's horrible English accent. I'm sorry. But if you enjoy that, you may very well enjoy this. It kind of takes place in the same time frame, the early 60s, and what English gangsters used to do. They dress up, hang out in bars, racketeering, murder, the usual. But this takes place where later, after the gangsters have grown up and they're older at this point, their past sins tend to get dug up. The thing about past sins is they don't age very well. Literally in this book, they're perfectly fine, which is a problem because now you can test, identify, and all this other stuff on it with today's technology. So this is obviously a problem with Frank, our main character in this. Also, a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet story in here. Two opposing gangs, two cross-star lovers. But it's done in that kind of English gangster way. Again, if you like the way, and dialogue's always a big thing for me. If you like the dialogue in the Cray Brothers Legends, or if you like, I hate to keep referring to Guy Ritchie on things, but if you like his movies with the way the English gangsters talk, you would probably very much enjoy this. However, I don't think this is a comic book. It reads more like a script or a playwright or something along those lines. So, I mean, you take and give on that. But I enjoyed it, and I will, again, if my comic book shop has it, I will be picking it up. All right, next. ObiWan, Star Wars, ObiWan. Number one. Yeah, it's boring. I don't want to say, I know the show's coming out and there's a lot of hype, and it's probably very much the reason why this comic book was pushed out. So he's on Tatooine, old man, and basically it's all flashbacks, right? Flashbacks to his day as a youngling and his little clan at the Jedi Temple, and his best friend, and she's super independent and has things she needs to do. It gets very Mary Sue-ish at that point. Not to use a word used by Gators or anything, but it's evident in this story. And so what happens is she's like, hey, I gotta go help my father. For some reason the Force is telling her to, or whatever. Obi-Wan's like, no, you can't go. So she takes off anyway, and he's like, I'm going to follow you, I'll go with you. They get into a little kerfuffle, some local gangsters. They break free because super strong kids whip up on them, and then she's like, okay, let's go help my father. And Obi-Wan's like, nah, we should go back to the temple now. And I'm like, wait, you were all, it's your only friend, and then all of a sudden the problem, which got solved relatively easy, and then you rolling out like that, that's crazy. So for the most part, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy this. Oh, and Yoda's like, hey, everybody goes their own way. By the way, you're in trouble. Sweep the floor. Done. All right. Quest aside, number one. So if you played Dungeons and Dragons, if you watch Vox Machina, if you've watched, any Watcher, whatever the case may be, any fancy, you always hear about the taverns right before you go on the quest and all of that. This happens, well, what if we just focus the story on the quest, and it kind of turns into almost like a medieval version of The Office, right? Everybody's got their own characters, their own dialogue in it, their own little motivations in it. It's almost too much. And then it's always cut with some humor, with the occasional guy coming in saying, hey, we got some people over here we need to go save. I need 4 people. And people stand at the tavern and go off to war, right? But in this one, what happens to the tavern when the owner of the tavern and the king are best friends, and the king's like, yeah, I'm shutting down your tavern because I need a barracks out here for my military. And they used to be friends in Quest a lot. So there's a little bit of a mainline narrative story into it. I like that concept. It gives me something to grasp onto because not all the whimsical characters intrigue me that much. So, again, this is one of those, if they have it, if they don't, I'm not going to miss out on it. Last but not least, Little Monsters #3 came out. Hey, I'm enjoying this. This is where the story really picks up. We're actually getting our motivations in this. Last two issues were just kind of a setup with a twist ending. In this one, we find a human body. The kids kind of feed on him a little bit. It's the first real blood they've had in a while because humanity's apparently been wiped out, right? And we may be getting a Romeo and Juliet story in here as well. One vampire kid that can't speak, and then a independent young lady with a bow and arrow who the vampires the vampires are feeding on her dad, by the way. That should be a thing. And she's starting to find out that vampires are real. Like, that's a thing. So definitely, it's interesting. The story's picking up. I'm happy about that. So I'll definitely be picking up some more of that. So that's my haul this week. I hope you enjoyed it. What's going on in the community? Working on the next Evil Air project. We're going to make our own bat signal on this one, only we're not doing bat stuff on it. We're doing evil stuff on it. So we got that going on. Also, I put a couple of things up on eBay. You can check it out at Pocan Joe Comics on eBay. We're looking to make some changes in the Evil Lair. So I'm moving some comic books so we can buy some materials and kind of get some ideas about how we want to change the look of the Evil Lair if it's going to be something that we're going to push forward. So definitely, if you have any recommendations, comments, or anything like that, you can always hit it on the comments here or over at the Evil Lair Projects and Builds. All right, guys, I got nothing else. I'm going to head out of here. Y'all take it easy.